I'll go tally the votes. I need you to bring me your torch. This is where we learn who is the ultimate survivor. I'll read the votes.
Hello, everyone. Today, Ollie, Phil, and myself, we've all got something for you. We are talking about episode 5 of Survivor 45. Phil, I want to start with you. We're getting to know more of these tribes. We had the tribe swap. Sean quit the game. Which camp are you having more fun being a part of while watching these episodes?
I think I'm really liking I'd say I really like Lulu. I like watching Lulu. I think it's really fun. I like seeing Caleb and Bruce, which I'm sure we'll get into. I don't know what's going on there, but I think there's a lot of fun dynamics there. I think that's the tribe that I'm most sort of excited about.
Yeah, absolutely. Ollie, would you agree? Do you have another tribe that you're keeping your eyes on?
Yeah. I kind of obviously like all three of them bring their own different dynamics. I think for this particular episode, I was very intrigued by Reba, actually. I really kind of liked what was happening there, and you're kind of seeing almost the deception on that tribe. But there was a lot of funny moments from Lulu. I agree with Phil on that one. But yeah, I think from my recollection, there was definitely Reba.
Yeah, let's start with Reba because they had a very interesting night after Tribal. So Sean quit the game, right? And we find out from Sifu that Sean told him, and we all saw as the viewers, Sean tells Sifu before he leaves, I didn't vote for you. He says, no, I denied voting for you. This obviously came as a surprise to Julie, Dee, and J Maya because all of them said, oh no, we wrote down Sean. Yeah, all of us. It was Sean. How do you think this tribe is feeling right now? I'm specifically looking at Dee and Julie. I don't think that they're in a great state of mind at this moment.
Yeah, I kind of just think that they've because of Sean doing that, it was kind of just almost like, I think it was Julie that said it best, or was it Dee? But one of them was like, we did all of this for you, and then this is how you reward us. And like, I kind of agree. I was like, that is kind of a slap in the face to them, because they were all sat there like, we are going to protect you. And you've now kind of gone to Sifu and gone, wasn't me, sort them out. So yeah, I was sat there kind of like, do you know what, Sean? Bugger off. So it's definitely not put them in a good space. But I think, do you know what? They had their poker faces on, and that's what I enjoyed. I loved seeing them, all of them stone cold, and you could see Sifu trying, and they were like, nope. So I enjoyed that.
Well, perhaps it's the original Reba's transparency and sort of, showing of trust that sort of put me on the wrong path when I was first watching the episode. I thought that Dee was going to own up to it.
Yeah, me too.
Did. Thank you, Matthew. I really thought that she was going to own up to it, and it actually came as such a surprise to me that she sat there, looked Sifu right in the face, and said, Sifu, I did not vote for you. And all of a sudden, I'll say this, and I really want to know both of your opinions on this, as the other two that genuinely know that they did not vote for Sifu, how would you feel hearing someone, and I guess maybe they don't know exactly who might have voted for them, but Dee did say Sifu at Tribal, so I believe that they do know. How would you feel if your sort of tribe mate is blatantly lying about something, and you're sitting there being like, well, if you are lying, I don't want to out you, but me not outing you makes me an option as someone who might have voted for Sifu. Like, it's a tricky spot. It's tough for everyone.
I think that's a great question. So in my mind, J Maya and Julie both think they're working close with Dee. We know from the edits of the previous episodes that Dee has a great relationship with Julie. Not so much J Maya. I do feel like there's a missing scene somewhere where the three of them agreed to like have each other's backs. Like I do think that exists based on how J Maya approaches and gives information to Dee and Julie. So honestly, if I was Julie or J Maya, I might, and what I was hoping would happen, I might say that I voted for Dee. I might have said I was the vote on Dee because if Julie or J Maya said that they were the vote on D, then that would absolutely 100% mean that Sean voted for Sifu. And then you can sort of take the tension, and right then we could have the discussion, like, D, I promise it really wasn't me who voted for you, but just so you don't get blamed for voting for Sifu, this might be the best option for us to do.
I think that's brilliant. I think that's really, really smart, actually. I think that would be a really good way to go about it.
I kind of was on the same wavelength. Like, when I was watching everyone go through it, I was like, why is no one just saying, oh, yeah, I voted D?
Mm-hmm.
But I think to answer your first question, I think it completely depend on who it was. Because I think when I look at that tribe dynamic, I think D had the better chance of being able to than I actually think Julie. Because I think from the previous episode, we saw that kind of D and J Maya, in my opinion, D and J Maya were a little bit closer because it was kind of Julie that was hesitant to want to go for Sifu, and it was kind of J Maya and D. So, and you kind of see that with this episode with kind of J Maya putting herself out there. Like, she was doing it for D because she trusts D. Now, if it was Julie, would that have happened? Maybe on D's end, we're not sure about J Maya. But I agree with Matt. I would have definitely been like, oh yeah, I voted D. I was just scared, didn't know what was going on, so I voted D out of worry. And just pull like an idol thing, saying like, I felt like he was bluffing. He wanted to like basically play us all and go look from that.
Yeah, Reba was such an interesting tribe to watch this episode. I know, like, I was grateful for the segments that we saw of them, but I think there was like, I pretty much caught up on maybe it's not an official theme, but I noticed that there was a lot of convoluted gameplay or gameplay that was more complicated than as a viewer it appeared like it needed to be. So let's stick with Reba and just kind of talk about their episode as a whole. So the whole thing about, Sifu's trying to get to know who actually placed the vote on him. And I think this was a really fun edit. It's like classic Survivor, just trying to figure out who cast the one vote to evict. And not to evict, Big Brother's on my mind. He really is on the train that J Maya was the one who voted against him at Tribal Council. And he says that great analogy to J Maya about how he reads people's energy to catch them off balance, and that's a part of Tai Chi. And J Maya is like, was that to me? Like, was that targeted towards me? And she comes up with this plan to be like, all right, Julie and D, let's all pretend that we're not working together, and I'm going to say that I voted for Sifu. I'm confused by this. I don't really even know what to think. I don't understand the point. That's all. I don't get the point. How do you two feel about this, Ollie?
I think you said it best. There's like layers and layers upon strategy, which got it did get confusing, which kind of made me interested. The J Maya and Sifu kind of this under the water rivalry thing, because you kind of see it in surf, like on the surface, you just see like something's bubbling. So that was always fun to watch. And I did enjoy the confessional. I think it was J Maya being like, he's trying to threaten me, he's trying to like read me, and I'm just like, bye. I did enjoy that. I think the thing that then I got confused with was J Maya has kind of stuck her neck out for D and Julie, and then D, I think it was D, was the one that was like, maybe we just vote her out. I was like, why would you want to get her out when she's protecting you, knowing you've just written Sifu's name down? Layers.
Yeah, Matthew, I had a very similar thought. I was like, why is she doing this? And I think the only explanation that I was able to sort of conjure up is that J Maya has no clue, sadly, how terrible of a place she's actually in. And so I think that she feels the confidence to be like, I'll take the bullet. It's fine. I'm in an all right place. This is not going to sort of bring me down anywhere. I'm going to be the savior here. But what she doesn't realize is that she is not in any sort of placement to be taking blame for this at all. And I thought the same thing. I remember hearing that. I was like, what are you doing? You are already at, fighting for the bottom with Sifu. And And making this claim is, in my opinion, is throwing her to the absolute bottom. It was strange to me.
Yeah, and exactly what you said, Phil, is like my reasoning for there had to have been some sort of scene that we didn't see between Julie, Dee, and J Maya, where they were like, oh yeah, we're gonna do this great alliance, like a sub-alliance, right? We know that Dee and Julie are aligned with Austin and Drew, but they're on a different tribe right now. So like I think that they all said that they would just have each other's backs, meaning Julie, J Maya, and Dee. And I think, as you touched upon, Phil, this sort of plays into J Maya's storyline that we see this episode when we get to the ambulance, the journey, I should say. So we'll hold on that because I also want to talk about Bello. We should go back and talk about the Bellows tribe as a whole now. But to Ollie's point, just to really finish us off here, what we got, the conclusion of Reba's storyline this episode was Dee basically saying, all right, why don't maybe let's vote out J Maya. And I do wonder if that is a ploy to get Sifu to play his what they think is a real idol, but we all know it's fake. I wonder if that's the case because I don't really get it because J Maya feels like she's working with Julie and Dee, whereas Sifu doesn't think he's fully working with Sifu and Dee, at least from what the with Julie and Dee. So at least from what the edit is making us feel. So I don't know. We'll see how this plays out, but it just felt interesting.
Yeah, you go, Phil.
Yeah, I mean, I will say I think I understand that one a little bit more.
Okay.
And I think it's just that, right now, to your point, everyone is on different pages. Or if I could be more specific, I think that there are 3 pages. It's the Julie D, Sifu, and then J Maya. Those are the 3 pages. And so it's okay. How do we get most of us back on the same page? And while J Maya is out here catching this stray bullet willingly, I think it's easy to be like, hey, why don't we just vote out J Maya? That will pacify Sifu. It'll at the very least make him feel like we are with him right before merge, and we take it from there.
Yeah.
Look, that's what it is. Whether it's smart or not, who's to say? But I do think that is sort of their thought.
Yeah. I feel like from my perspective watching it, because to me, I feel like Sifu knows he's on the bottom now. He got a stray vote. And I think he saw himself trying to figure it out, whereas Dee was there being like chilled. And I think he kind of read into that as, right, okay, why is Dee so chilled about the fact that she got a stray vote and is feeling fine, but I'm not? So I feel like if they were to have voted for J Maya, I don't think it would have been in Dee and Julie's best interest because J Maya has shown loyalty, whereas Sifu hasn't, and then he'll always have that worry in the back of his mind. Because I feel like Dee and Julie are kind of banking on Austin and Drew. I think they've got this thing in their head like, they're going to be fine. We're going to reconnect at merge and be a 4. But I think like that's where their head was at that point. And I don't think they looked at the bigger picture of, I don't think Sifu is going to fully trust them. But we have to wait and see now anyway. But it'll be interesting.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting. Before we close the door on Reba here, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Go.
So it's interesting. We saw once upon a time Sean come back after being blindsided through Sabaya leaving. Sean felt blindsided and he came back and he said, "You guys got me. Good one. Y'all really had me there." And we remember we had a confessional from Emily being like, he's fawning. This is all sort of posturizing. He doesn't actually feel this way. He's hurt and he's not showing us. And in a weird way, I feel like that put him on the outs because they felt like he was lying. Now here we have, a couple episodes later, we have Sifu showing outward emotion, being outwardly upset by being blindsided. What's the right move here? Do you feel like Sifu should have come back with a little bit of that Sean energy and been like, "Hey guys, you got me, and I know one of you voted for me. I'm not taking it personally." Or do you think that what he did here was his most optimal move?
I kind of think the first one, just from my perspective, because I think I think the dynamics of the Reba tribe are completely different. Like OG Reba are completely different to old Lulu, where old Lulu have constantly they had to constantly, go to tribal and figure out these kind of where everyone sat. Whereas Reba, this was kind of their first time, and there was raw emotion behind it. And I think by that point, Sifu kind of knows the girls. Like, he's had, I think it was 9 days with them. So he kind of got to grips with how they kind of process things. So I think he could have I think if I was in that situation and I saw the tribe, I would have been like, great move. Like, so happy that happened. Whoever voted for me, it's fine. It's whatever. I just want to know. So I think it's kind of a bit of both from my perspective, but I don't know.
You know what's funny? Kind of for the reasons that you just listed, Ollie, like the difference in the tribe dynamics between OG Lulu and this new Reba, which is, I mean, basically just original Reba at this tribe minus a few at this point. I would actually say that I don't know. I think his reaction to it and how he showed back up at camp was kind of right on game wise, in my opinion, just from this. Because let's also face it, the overall mood at camp that night after tribal was very tense. And I think playing into the discomfort of it, right? And I think part of the reason why it was as tense as it was because we know that J. Maya, Julie, and Dee, the plan that they thought was going to happen did not happen.
Mm-hmm.
So there was some feelings towards Sean's quit, right, in the moment. There were feelings that, Sifu is still here, even though he wasn't supposed to be. There was feelings from Dee that she received a vote that night. So, like, I think playing into sort of how tense the environment was kind of the right thing to do. And I think it gets backed up later because we have Dee and Julie who were like, yeah, why don't we just vote out J. Maya next, right? Like, let's see how it goes. So it's interesting. I love that question, Phil. And actually, to your point, I want to just go back for a second. Phil, you actually really outlined, you helped me come to understand the strategy behind keeping Sifu over J. Maya for the next vote, or why they were even considering it. Again, whether or not it's the right move, we'll never know because we have a merge next week. So let's see. Let's see what happens. Why don't we move on to Bello, and let's talk through sort of Bello's whole story arc here. So they're all struggling with the lack of food. We got to talk to Heidi from Survivor 44 on our recap episode right after we do recap episodes right after the episode airs for the week on this channel. So make sure you subscribe. You'll either get Randy or myself or any mix of us. And sometimes we have some special guests.
Obviously. It won't be me.
Yeah. Okay. And we, the food thing comes back into play. So I think it's important to note here. We got a really fun edit of Kendra really trying her best to consume a worm as if it were a pill, which was very interesting. I don't think it was the right approach, and clearly it wasn't. But something we should highlight here is Drew saying that Kendra is exactly like he expected and appreciates her energy around camp. He enjoys her presence. He says this is the magic of Survivor. Is all of the worlds colliding. So I think that this is a very important bullet for Drew in terms of what happens later in the episode with Tribal Council and who ends up getting voted out, because it shows Kendra's ranking when it comes to the original Bello members of this new Bello tribe.
Absolutely. And I'll say this. I was, to your point, Matthew, these are two people I do not think that in the real world would ever be friends, be hanging out, be, aligned. And it is always really fun for me. It is part of the joy of Survivor. I think we all love characters. It's the reason why we love reality shows. And it's really interesting to see such different characters from some very different, jumps of life come on this island and be able to appreciate one another for who they are. And I really like that. And I noticed that. I said, oh, wow, Drew likes Kendra. It's almost surprising. They're such different people. But I love it.
Yeah, it is nice to see that, because it's kind of like Survivor and other shows. This is the only time you'll kind of see those people that are in two completely different worlds collide. So I love that. And I'm not going to lie, the worm edit, I mean, it was hilarious. Like, you know that was edited to make you appreciate Kendra and root for Kendra. And it worked on me. I was like, yes, this is hilarious. I mean, she tried. I don't think, I mean, I may have been starving. I think the temptation would have been there, but would I have been able to have eaten a worm? Probably not. So kudos to her.
I feel like I would. I obviously, like, right now, I'm not gonna just like go in my backyard and find a worm. But I think if I were on an island and it's like day 10, I might be tempted to do so. We'll see, you know, because they have far less rations in this new era of Survivor. So it's very interesting. That comes into play later when we talk about Lulu, right, in the US. Okay. Someone who I felt so bad for because he wasn't able to find his footing in this tribe was Brando. And this was kind of sad to watch because it seemed like he was actually doing the right things in terms of making those connections. We had that amazing edit of him and Drew nerding out and talking about all of their shared interests, which was really, really nice to see. But Brando also mentioned that he has the smallest connection to Kendra from the original Bello tribe, which surprised me. We got that fun edit of him, Kendra, Couture, Kelly, all wearing the buffs as bandos. Like, I thought that was a lot of fun. So I thought that he had a stronger connection to Kendra than I really thought. But he doesn't know if he can trust her. Did this surprise either of you to hear this?
Not really. I feel like his strongest connection from the girls was Kelly. It was very clear that him and Kelly had a strong connection. Right. So I'm kind of not surprised because I feel like, from my opinion, the edit kind of did show that it was like, when it came to them four, it was strategy. Like, this is an alliance we want to do. And we never really saw Kendra and Brando really have a bonding moment. But yeah, I will just say I enjoyed the nerding out. Survivor and Pokemon, yeah, I was here for it. And I was listening and I was just sat there and I was like, I understand everything that's being said. And I was like, yes, you can do that. Yes, that is right. Yes, well done.
I was here for the I was here for the nerd. Sorry, go ahead, Ali. Apologies.
No, you go. I was trying to say you go.
Yeah. Oh, I was just gonna say I was here for the nerding out too, but Drew was clearly not. And I think it's so interesting. It is so rare in Survivor that we see a proposed alliance and a deliberate shutdown in a public setting with another tribe mate. Like, there, it was so weird to see. It was bold. It was weird. It was very different than the beaten path that we're used to. And can I ask y'all, is this an evolution of the game? Is this just a blip? I mean, like, was this the right move for Drew? I mean, obviously he didn't get voted off, but I'll tell you what, his butt was in the hot seat the entire stretch. What do you think about that? I found it very, very strange, and I really don't know where I would sort of place myself in terms of good or bad strategy.
Well, as a Pokemon fan, that is an evolution I don't want to see.
It's good. Yeah. It's good. It's good. Yeah.
No, but I think it was a blip because I think everyone knows, everyone who is a fan of Survivor knows that why would you reluctantly be like, no, I'm good? Because to me, if I was Brando in that situation, I wouldn't say anything to Drew, but I'd turn around to Emily privately and even Kendra, and I'd make it known. I'd be like, we wanted to, I suggested this alliance and he said no. Why wouldn't he want that unless he feels safe? And that's what I kind of bring up and be like, why is he feeling comfortable? And I think because of that was the catalyst as to why we know, as Matt said, we saw him in the hot seat. So I'm hoping it's a blip because I don't know why. Why would you openly be like, no?
There's something about Drew choosing to do this with Emily right there, knowing how the votes go later, that I think is kind of interesting to dissect, because not only does he just outright say no, right, as we're discussing right now, but he also sort of provides his reasoning, which is basically like someone from Bella's got to go. And I think Emily there, who is an OG Lulu, sort of hearing that. Remember, Emily was a part of a tribe that really shrunk down in the early stages of the game. So I think something that might be on her mind is dwindling down numbers from some of the larger tribes. I mean, as we know, Reba and Bella are equal. So I'm curious to know like why the balance shifted towards voting out someone from Bello as opposed to someone from Reba. Like that I'm curious about, because they both had the same number of original tribe mates from the start of the game. So that's interesting. But you know what? I'm a fan of Australian Survivor, and I found that in that version of the game, at least based off edits and what is shown on television, that a lot of people on the show tend to be very out front with how they are playing the game, and it's sort of less behind closed doors. I'm not saying that's for every season. I'm not saying that's for every player, but I feel like I have seen things like that. So I found it refreshing to sort of see that harsh sort of right off the bat reaction to Brando's proposed alliance. That being said, if I was on that island, I don't think it would be my first instinct. And I will say, watching the US version, it did sort of catch me by surprise, because I feel like it's very few and far between when we see sort of these types of interactions.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I will say, I mean, Drew sort of has, as a through line, he is so, this is just what he shows. Obviously, he is not this to everybody. You know, he's not telling he's not telling J Maya everything. He's not telling Sifu everything, but he is characterizing himself to be this hyper honest, will always be true to what he feels sort of character. And in my mind, as I'm even hearing, you two talk about it, I know I posed the question saying, no, I don't know where I stand, but you two help me sort of figure it out. I feel like he is really just sort of fleshing out that character of, hey, I'm going to always be honest, even if you don't like it. He's not going to be abrasive like Emily was at the start, but he's going to be honest. And I think doing it while Emily is sitting there, as you were saying, Matthew, like that was also a deliberate choice. While Emily is sitting there, she can sort of hear that and say, and think two things, right? One, he's going after a Bello before he's going to ever go after an original Lulu. Mm-hmm. Two, he is confident and he is comfortable disagreeing even when it's uncomfortable. And I do think that aligning yourself with someone that you feel will always be honest with you is a little bit appealing. Even if in a moment like that, you're like, oh shit, that was kind of harsh. It's like, you can look at him and be like, oh, well, he's not going to lie to me just because it's music to my ears.
Yeah, but I think the only, because I actually agree with your things on honesty. I think though, I've just completely lost my point. My brain's just
it
clipped.
happens.
I don't know. I know. No, I've forgotten it.
Much like saying no to an alliance on Survivor, it was a blip. Yeah.
Very good. I love
not
this.
As good as Ollie's. Not as good as Ollie's.
It's fun.
We're all having our wins today. You know what? I love it. Our podcast is basically just trying, for each of us to explain in our own words what happens during the episodes. And it's great to kind of get on like the same wavelengths or just to have our discussions. So let's go and jump to New Lulu. And we get another collapse from Jake. And this sort of starts us off on hearing more about Jake and his experience. But something before we kind of get into Jake's story that I would like to highlight was Kelly and how Kelly's profession sort of bled its way into the game, where she understood exactly what was happening with Jake right away, and was right there to sort of calm him down or reinforce what was actually happening in his mind, because we saw Jake get very, very worried that something more serious than what Kelly was describing was going on, which would result in what he feared would be his result and eventual boot from the game.
Jake's a fighter. Jake is a fighter. That's something that I really gained from this. We talked about, Sean's sort of distasteful exit of the game, Hannah from the start. Jake is not like that. Jake wants to be there. And Jake, you can see he's actually like almost angry that this keeps happening.
Yeah.
Because he's going, this cannot be the reason why I leave the game. And I love seeing that. Seeing someone who is so decidedly happy to be there that even in a health issue, he's not, yes, obviously he's worried, but it's funny, Matthew, he is worried. He's not sitting there going, oh my God, my health, what's going on? He's going, oh my God, this better not take me out of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And in a weird way, like seriously, it shows how much he wants to be there. And I gained a lot of respect for him. I always liked Jake as a character. I mean, I went to college in Boston. He's a Boston boy. We went to college in Boston, Matthew. But it really, I think that scene really did speak to him as a player and a competitor overall.
Yeah, I definitely think that scene you saw the respect. You kind of, I feel, regardless of your opinion on Jake, you showed him respect. Like, you gave him respect in that moment, because it's like you kind of said, Phil. His worry was that he was going to be taken out of the game that he loves. And again, it's that passion, because any true fan of the show or anyone that wants to be there, your leg could be snapped in 3 pieces and you'll sit there and go, can I still be here?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not leaving.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I got from him. So I really respected it. And kind of on the game side, I think it really was to Kelly's benefit, because she was able to kind of put her life skills into practice to benefit her in a kind of game capacity, which I think everyone always wants to be able to do that. Some people try to do it a bit too hard. Some people just cannot. So I think it really did benefit her, because she was able to be like, right, here is my professional opinion. Here are my statistics. Let me help you and calm you down. And then in a way, that's going to make Jake feel really kind of calming, and he's going to appreciate Kelly more and want to work with her more, which is her benefit. So it was a good moment all around. Obviously, it was sad to see. I hope it isn't a reoccurring thing. I hope it doesn't take him out of the game. It's just something we've got to watch out for. But mad respect for him.
Yeah, and just using Kelly as a transition point, like, it was great to see. I think a lot of people on the tribe will really appreciate Kelly for doing exactly what she did. And I think, going back to Phil's point, because we had 2 quits in the first 4 episodes of this show, I think it was a smart move to put an emphasis this episode on the sacrifices people are making to be there. Not only did we hear about Jake, but we also heard about Dee, right? And Dee's story about immigrating to the US from Cuba and not being from a family of quitters. And I think that, Dee actually had the experience of being at tribal council with Sean in order to sort of come to terms with that and share that story with us as viewers. But here we also have Jake, who shares his story about his eating disorder. And I think that this was I'm sure that there are people who feel less alone based on Jake sharing this story with us. I mean, we very rarely see men be so open and honest about an eating disorder, such as binge eating. And it is a very common one among men. And I think that it is very good that we got to see some sort of representation. And I thought that Jake was able to share that with us it's going to do a lot of good. And I really appreciated that. But not only that, I think the emphasis on the underlying story that he shared was working so hard to achieve a goal, and then the frustration when there's another element to it that he wasn't expecting, such as the spasms. And, it got me emotional during the episode, because that part really resonated with me as a viewer. So I think it was a very strong overall delivery of Jake's story and also Dee's story on Reba.
Yeah. And to that point, Matthew, I think it definitely showed, because I will sit here and say now, I know I was trying to be devil's advocate last episode for Sean's quit. Yeah, no, I'm going to sit here and now and say my opinion has changed. And again, I kind of discussed this off camera. I think seeing Dee's story, seeing Jake's story, it makes you remember why you're out there. And it makes the viewers remember that, no matter what's going on, they're all there to fight. So it was mad respect for everyone in all ways. And again, yeah, I think it was a good episode to showcase it to Sean's, is it deficit? I think that's the word. But basically, I'm sorry, Sean, but it did kind of be like, this is why no one else is going to quit in this like season. And it's kind of showing like, okay, Sean, you did what you did. I'm so sorry. I love you really. But yeah.
Yeah, and I'll say this too. I mean, you know, I was a little bit of a sourpuss last episode, and I think I was very openly upset about you know, just people quitting on Survivor. It doesn't make me feel good. It really doesn't. But and I know that a big thing that I said was that like I felt like the show has been taking it very easy on some of these quitters, and I am a little bit happy that we didn't need Jeff slamming down on Sean. Instead, we are just going to juxtapose what Sean did to people who actually want to be there in D, in Jake. And we show that just like they show that. It does make us feel, it makes me feel good. It makes me feel like they get it, you know, behind the scenes. They get it. And the people that are out there, they want to be there.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, they did such a masterful job at subtly showing that by showing you those packages and not putting it right in your face, being like, this is why I, like, obviously we know that they've said, I'm not quitting because of this, but you never saw a big discussion for anyone really talking about the quit. But the editors really did a good job of kind of just sprinkling the little nuggets of being like, we're going to show you why everyone else is so passionate to Sean's deficit.
Yeah, it's a really strong choice that I appreciated as a viewer, right? We didn't, you're so right, Phil, we didn't exactly get that response from Jeff. And we even this episode, next person voted out Sean. I was like, okay, you know, I guess they have to commit to that now because they did the same thing for Hannah. But maybe in the future they could figure out something else to say because it gives the wrong impression. But I'm so glad that we just took a moment to have this chat all together. But getting back into the game, we can't talk about this new Lulu tribe, right? We're at Lulu. Yeah. We can't talk about the new Lulu tribe if we don't talk about Couture and Bruce. And now like Caleb is sort of entering into that storyline a little bit. So Couture going to find an idol or going to search for an idol, right? I think it was, you're left at camp alone. Why not? Why not try to do it? But Caleb notices first and then is very quick to call out her name to warn her that everyone is coming. But it's a little too late at that point because everyone kind of sees it. So let's talk about Couture's position in the tribe. It seems like her only ally at this point, based off of the edit, or only strong relationship is with Caleb. Are you both getting the same impression?
Yeah. And I love Couture. I mean, I'm loving the rivalry. I don't care how one-sided it's looking. I don't care because Couture is literally beating the horse like every episode. Her personality is, how much do I not like Bruce? And there is part of me that feels bad that she's gotten that edit, but also I'm just sat there and I'm like, do you know what? I'm here for it because it's just funny. It's funny now. But it's very clear that her only ally is Caleb. But Caleb is kind of, when I watch the edit and I see how Caleb kind of talks to everyone, Caleb has kind of shown Couture the most that he's got her back because he's straight away going to be like, FYI, everyone saw, this is why I did this. So I can see Caleb's angle because I think he's even like, you saw in the edit, he was kind of even getting annoyed with Bruce. And I think those personalities, the ones that literally will always just have an opinion on something, will always be great in camp because you're in a situation where you're sleep deprived, you're hungry, like emotions are going to be high. And if you are going to constantly be that person to be like, make sure you do it like this, Like, the middle finger and the FU words will come out at some point. So I get it. I get it.
Yeah. I think that it's really interesting. With first of all, I do agree. I think Katurah is at the bottom, and rather she seems very alienated on this tribe, because I do think there's an argument to be said that Bruce is also at the bottom, but Bruce at least does not feel like he's being alienated. I get more annoyed with him versus Katurah, which feels like her only real ally feels like it's Caleb. But I want to sort of talk about the theme of that through, honestly, who Caleb has chosen to align with now on 2 tribes. He chose Emily, and he chose Katurah. I don't think that's a mistake, and I don't think that is just happenstance.
No.
I think that he likes to grab the person who is alienated at the bottom, looking for someone to throw them a lifeline, and he is that lifeline because he knows that that's how he's going to get loyalty. And that's really what I sort of saw here. I think less than looking at it being like, oh man, Katurah is so alienated, she's in a real pickle. I go, man, Katurah is so alienated, but boy, is she lucky that Caleb is snatching her up right now, because similar to Emily, I actually don't think Katurah is in too much of a jam being aligned with Caleb. I think Caleb will pull her out of her unfortunate position right now, similar to the way that he pulled out Emily. And I'm excited to see what happens, but that's really what I think.
Wow,
No.
Phil, I totally agreed with everything you said, but the one thing I didn't what didn't click in my head was the comparison to Caleb and Emily's relationship. So that's really cool to acknowledge. I'd love to go back and see Caleb's season interviews and see if he mentioned anything about a strategy such as this, because I'm forgetting off the top of my head, but really, really cool to identify that. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think Caleb is doing a phenomenal job. And I, as someone who really reads into the edits, I liked the amount of screen time that we got of Caleb, because I always feel if we get too much screen time from someone, that it sort of means that like they're not going to be in the picture much longer. And I like seeing and I like feeling that we're going to get more of Caleb throughout the next, hopefully till the end. So this was interesting. And I really thought the strategy was just to make sure that that everyone feels like on the tribe that they can use him or like have him be a part of their alliance. We saw that he tells Kelly that Sabaya had the Lulu idol so that everyone's mind can go at ease about people searching for idols on the beach. And I think Kelly really appreciated this too, but this was a strategic choice from Caleb because Kelly, she was the last person that Caleb really thought he had a strong connection with. So I appreciated him putting in the effort and exchanging that information. I thought was a very nice like olive branch.
Do you know what? I think after this discussion, to me, Caleb is playing the best strategically social game. And that's how I'm going to word that, because when you watch his edit, everything he does, and it's kind of a strategy that I really love, and I think is a really underrated kind of strategy that everyone kind of sees. He's making loads of strategic decisions to benefit himself socially, like kind of to Phil's point, bringing the people at the bottom in. I think that's perfect, because he then, say he makes it to the end, he has this really good ploy to say, I got these people because they were alienated. They came with me. We showed the loyalty, and people can't sit there and be like, oh, well, that's luck. That's masterful social strategy. And then again, it's giving Kelly that bit of information to bring her in so that Caleb knows if he wants to get his people out, he can literally go to Kelly and be like, here's what we need to do. Here's the ploy, here's X, Y, and Z, here's the reasons why. And it will benefit him. So I think what Caleb's doing is so good. I just hope I know we saw early on in the season, he did get clocked, and I think he got clocked by Reba people. I'm hoping come this merge, he has people on his side so that if for some bizarre reason, Reba people, Drew and Austin, did want to target him, he has people to fall back on. And I think he will be so well insulated. And I think that's his strategy. So I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, I think the Kelly of it all is really interesting. Kelly is someone that it's interesting because we are not seeing too much of what makes her amazing, super valuable, whatever, but we hear about it from everybody, every single person on the tribe. And I think that she is playing an amazing game. Once again, despite the fact that I don't feel like we are seeing enough of it, to be honest. But I did find it really interesting that she's clearly a centerpiece. Caleb made it very clear I need to align myself with Kelly to a certain extent, despite him knowing that he's really, really well aligned with 3 of the 5 total members on the tribe. He was like, I need to get Kelly because she feels like such a center point. So I'm very curious to see when we're gonna sort of see that Kelly magic on our screen instead of just hearing about it through other tribe mates.
Do you know who the edit? She's reminding me a lot of Victoria Bodmon from Edge of Extinction.
That's
because,
really
someone who was so well, like everyone somehow wanted to work with her. She had such a good grasp on the game, but as viewers, we never really saw it, but we all knew it was there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the distinction I'm getting right now. I'm just hoping that we do start to see more of it from Kelly's point of view, because I feel like that's what she deserves, but what we deserve as well.
Well, we do see something from Kelly's point of view, and that is on the journey. We're going to take a very quick break and then briefly talk about the immunity challenge, but more importantly, get to that terrible decision that had to be made on the journey. Here we go.
Hi, Survivor Now podcast listeners. I am Katie from KT Designs, better known as Katie Tedesco Art on both Instagram and Etsy. I have been designing and selling Survivor products for over 7 years at my Etsy shop, including replicas like hidden immunity idols and Survivor trading cards with all of the players' stats on the back. I am so grateful for Survivor Now for giving me this shout out and helping me reach even more superfans. I love listening to their podcast. So if you are looking for some really unique reality TV products for yourself or to give a superfan in your life, come check out my Etsy shop at www.etsy.com/shop/KatieTedescoArt.com.
Oh my God. I'm so impressed with Katie Tedesco art. I think that a lot of that stuff is super cool. We got a comment on our last video asking us if we do power rankings. And now on our show, got something for you, not officially, but we do have Survivor Now produces a show called Stock Watch, which we do every week. So make sure you subscribe to our channel and follow along so that you can be notified when Stock Watch goes live. I believe right now they're doing those episodes on Fridays. All right. So, immunity challenge. First of all, I think just the one thing that I think we could really highlight here was Reba's complete 180 in terms of performance. They sprinted through that, and that was very cool to see. And it ends with Reba winning immunity and lots of fish, but Lulu also wins immunity and a smaller plate of fish. So we know that New Bello is going to tribal council, but there's a twist. So this twist is that Reba, as the first tribe to win, gets to pick one member from their tribe and one member from the other tribes to go on a journey. J Maya wins a rock, paper, scissors that Dee really tries to play again, but J Maya's like, oh no, I won. I thought that was funny. Everyone knew what Dee was trying to do, and let's see if J Maya figured it out too. But J Maya goes, they choose Kelly because Kelly, I looked like was like voluntold, or it was hard to see what happened there, but Kelly was visibly upset to have to sit out of the challenge. So they choose Kelly to give her a little something to do. And then Reba chooses Austin. And this is interesting because J Maya says, as a reason for picking Austin, they know him and want to see what information he can pass on about his tribe. I loved Austin's like reaction here, where he's just kind of like, no, like that's not what I'm not gonna do that. I thought it was so funny, but I also like, what a that was a really rough thing to say about Austin right then and there in front of his tribe. While they're about to go to tribal council, I thought that was unfortunate.
Can I ask you, do you think that was performative, or do you think that he was really annoyed?
Oh, both. Because I think openly, if you're gonna if that's something J-Maya is gonna say, I know in that situation, I'd sit there and be like, but you're saying that and making everyone else think that I'm just going to openly tell you as a former Reaver. But then also, I think it was that playing up of, I'm not going to tell them anything, guys, I'm solid. Don't tell. He was doing that to kind of put trust in his tribe. So yeah, I definitely think it was both. But it was so funny.
I mean, I would be upset. I think I would be like, are you kidding me? Because I don't think J-Maya kind of realized what she was saying about it. And I don't think it doesn't feel like she put 2 and 2 together that they were going to tribal council. It could have been if we had a confessional from J-Maya saying, I really wanted to paint a target on Austin's back, I would have been like, nicely done. But it didn't. That's not how it came across in the edit. If that's what it was, amazing. If not, I think it was the wrong approach. But for Austin, I think it was kind of like, you got to be kidding me. And I think we should talk about the journey, because Austin has another one of those moments where they finally reach the top of the mountain and they get a choice. They get to choose between sandwiches, delicious looking sandwiches that have been sitting out in the sun for who knows how long, or an amulets. They all get to have an amulet each. And what these amulets do, I don't like this. 3 amulets left in the game are an extra vote if used together. Again, I don't get how this is supposed to look. 2 amulets left in the game, meaning that one of the 3 people to get one got voted out. 2 amulets left in the game are steal a vote. And then 1 amulet left, assuming that the other 2 were voted out, is a full-on idol.
Yeah.
Okay. I would choose sandwich. I don't think that the amulets are that great of a advantage. I think that, like Austin was saying, it just puts an extra obstacle. It basically determines your elimination order. And I don't think that is something that I would risk in the game, because I would like to have flexibility and adaptability when I would need to get certain people out of the game. And this, if you want the idol, really, it puts a target on your back and it also puts a target on other 2 people that you have to get out. That's my thoughts.
Yeah. As a viewer, I'm going to just keep it real with y'all. I love the amulet. I love the amulet. As a viewer, oh my gosh, I love it. I love it. I remember the first time that I saw it on, what was that, Survivor 42.
Yeah.
I loved it. And I'm happy that it's back. Said, Matthew, I agree. If I'm an actual player on this season, I'm picking sandwiches every single time. Picking the amulet is setting you up to have a target on your back from the people that you share this with. And it's a shame, because you have to carry this false perception that you're working together when they all know that that's not how that works. And it's just, I think it is such a pinch state advantage where it throws you into a pinch. And I think it's really interesting. Ollie, I want to know what's making you feel so.
Are you like right in the center of is that what you're?
I picked the amulet.
You'd pick the amulet. Okay.
Yeah.
Even as a player.
Do you know what? Yeah.
Wow.
Do you know what? Yeah. Because here's this is just me. And there's part of me that's like, do you know what? There is a messiness that I'm like, I'll take it. But I think also it depends on who it would be. If it was, do you know what? This sounds stupid, but let me explain. If it was people I did not like or trust, I take it. Because I would then be giving them the position of, here's the thing, do you now trust me with this or do you not? Because if you're going to straight away target me, then that proves that there was nothing good for you. And then if there's the pettiness of me being like, if that happened and then they sent me to jury, I'd be sitting there with the amulet going, did this cost you $1 million? At the jury, I'd be sitting there going like that. But that's just me being petty, Matt. It's fine. But I think it would be the chaos of it. That's why. But also there's a power thing. Like I would kind of like that, to have that. And I think socially you'd be able to then gauge what you'd be looking at those two specific people, being like, okay, where are their heads at? And if you can see that they're kind of distancing themselves from you, or even the other thing of going over the top to make you feel good, you can sit there and be like, right, okay, why are you doing that? Like, it's for me, it'd be like a gauging thing. But I'd also want to just then pass my amulet on to someone else. I'd be like, do you know what? I'm going to play hot potato with this. You have this. Just to make people worried and be like, no idea where it is.
Can I say something really interesting, or something that there's something that you said, Ollie, that like you just gave me a brain blast. I think the strategy is to lie about passing the amulet over, because if you have the amulet, I actually don't think that it's the best decision to actually pass it over, because I don't think that everyone's going to believe you. However, I think to lie about it, we're 3 tribe members, and I say, oh, I passed my amulet to Matthew. You should get out Matthew. I think that could possibly be effective. I think it's really interesting, but I don't know why. You saying that, I'm really curious to see if this keeps coming back in the future, if someone would lie about that and say, hey, I pass it to Sifu. I don't want the smoke. I don't want the target. Get his ass out, and yours will be more powerful. And you just cherry pick it. You pick someone that you are already against. I think that would be really interesting use.
Because here's the thing. Imagine I'm going to be J Maya. I'm J Maya. I then give my one to Austin. And then I tell Kelly, and I've gone, like, hypothetically, oh, I've given Austin both of those. She's going to target Austin straight away because in her brain, he's got 2. And then she's going to think, oh, yeah, I'm here with this one. And then I've still got it. Austin goes. I then get out Kelly. Oh, I've got it. Big brain.
I like this only if it happens this way.
Yeah.
Only if it happens this way. Because the thing is, I don't think, here's how I've been feeling about like seasons 41 through 44, and then sprinkled into this type of twist. I don't feel like Survivor should remind me of like card games like Exploding Kittens or something like that. Like, I don't think I should watch Survivor and be like, oh, that's similar. Like, I'm even right now thinking of some of the cards that you get in like those Exploding Kitten game sets. It's a game, by the way. I just want to make that very clear. Like, it's a card game where people get eliminated. And I think that there are some elements that we've seen in these post 40 seasons that are a bit like card gamey, or like the type of advantages that have to get used together. I think there's room for some of that. The more interesting thing in my head for an advantage like this would be if it started out as the idol, and as you vote out the people who also hold it, the advantage gets less and less. That's my feeling. I don't know if it would actually kind of work. They might have, I'm sure they probably talked about that order of operations, but I don't know. I still think, to me, this twist comes across as like, why? I could be wowed. I'm open to being wowed by it in the future, but for right now, I'm going to say it's not my favorite thing, but I can understand that. I could see where this could get very interesting with it, which is what both of you were saying about passing it on, putting the target on someone else's back. But all right, so they all pick the amulets, and Austin is like really upset about this, and he's going to be even more upset because things are happening at the Bello Beach that requires their attention, right? So we have Brando, who is basically like, hey, Drew, I'm going to give you my shot in the dark. And this is just so we can trust each other, and we're gonna all vote out Kendra. Okay, I think this is gonna work really well for us. And then we have Drew telling Emily, we have Brando telling Emily, oh, Drew wants us to vote out Kendra. Yeah, like we just had this talk. So it gets a little messy. I kind of enjoyed this. Do we think Brando played too hard, too fast with something like this? Or was it just the right amount?
I think it would be very hard to say it was the right amount considering he got voted off.
Yeah.
I'm going to say he overplayed. That said, I think that I enjoyed seeing him turn up the gas. And in a weird way, I wish that he was able to hold back just a touch, because it really showed me that Brando could have been an amazing player. He's also one of the people that I drafted in our draft, so maybe I'm a little biased.
Yeah.
But I I feel like he had so much potential, and in a weird way, we didn't see him have to really play much. And I remember watching him, I was getting giddy watching him start to stir these pots and sort of be this manipulator, this honestly, this liar on the island. And he even said to himself, he goes, I'm totally okay with lying. Like I will lie to these people if it means that I can get through another tribal. And it's a shame that it didn't work. And I do think that he played a little bit too hard. But at the same time, I mean, I actually really did thoroughly enjoy seeing him turn on the gas, even if just for a very short time. And I wish we got to see more of it, because I think that he does have a strategic brain. He just simply, he got caught up in his lies, and it's a shame. I think I heard it talked about in another podcast, but I agree that, you know, when Emily goes to Drew and says, is this true? Like, are you the one that sort of conjured this up? And he's looking at her going, Emily, no, I swear this was not me. It is so hard to mimic the true, honest emotion of someone when they are being told that they did something that they didn't. Yeah. And I think that is something that needs to be remembered, you know. And yeah, that's I'll leave it there.
Yeah, my thing is, I don't think he overplayed. I just don't think he played it correctly. Because I think going to Drew and being like, here's my shot in the dark, vote out Kendra, like that self-preservation, which is fair. I think Drew kind of being like, no. I think that was the kind of final nail in Drew's coffin for Brando to be like, okay, I'm getting rid of, because basically this is like the umpty time that like Drew has been like, Brando, no. And like at that point, I think Brando knows, okay, this guy does not want me here. I think the big mistake that Brando made was when he then went and had his conversation with Emily, and I heard this somewhere out on another podcast as well, actually. Had he said, and I agreed with it, had he gone straight away to Emily and said, I said this plan to Drew, it wasn't to get Kendra out, it was just because I wanted to gauge what he did, like how he reacted. And I can then say to Emily, he didn't want me to. He didn't want it, nothing to do with it. Clearly, I'm on the outs. I just did it to gauge him. I have me, you, and Kendra. I wasn't trying this. And I think that's where he went wrong, because then he tried to play off this thing of it was Drew. But he couldn't, as to your point, Phil, he couldn't keep up. He couldn't look honest to say it because he was lying. And I think Emily did really pick that up.
I disagree with that take also. I think there are clues. I'll explain why. There are clues in what happened here, because the question is going to be asked next week. I think we're going to find out why Emily decided to vote the way that she did. And I think there are things that I understood more of the red flags when I watched this episode for a second time. So we see Kendra and Emily talking, and they're talking about Brando, and Emily basically asks the question like, oh, do we know for sure that Brando is with us? And Kendra saying, like Drew has got to go. Kendra says Brando won't turn on her and Emily. And I think then I think the second thing that was Brando, like a mark against Brando. So it was this interaction, right, where she's basically being reinforced by someone who knows Brando well, assumingly well, that no, he's not going to flip. Then when Brando and Emily have that talk, and Brando's like, oh no, I never said that. You know, I about Drew, when Emily says, Drew told me that this was your plan to vote out Kendra, and Brando says, no, I didn't say that. He's lying. I think he was way too nonchalant and needed just a little bit more panic. Phil, you called it out. We saw the panic in Drew when he realized that Brando had been saying that voting out Kendra was his plan. We didn't see that same thing from Brando, and I think Emily was able to catch up on it. So she has one person who is the most closely aligned with Brando in Kendra, who's not even working that closely with him, saying, oh, he won't turn against us. And then we also have this reinforcement from Drew that makes Emily kind of realize, no, I think the plan did kind of come from Brando. So that's my take on it.
Do you know what, actually, to kind of validate your point as well, what Emily also has going for her with her and Kendra conversation is the fact that she also Emily knows that Brando tried to make a nerd alliance, which we didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I
That
think
did not include Kendra.
yeah, and he kind of even there mentioned Kendra. So I think to your credit there, Matthew, she also knows that Kendra's there being like, he won't do this, but then she also knows stuff that Brando has done. So no, okay, I can see that now.
But let's be super honest here. The true nail in the coffin was Austin coming back and sharing the advantage. I think that was the ultimate seal. Seriously. Because even after talking to Drew, she was still questioning. Emily was still questioning a little bit. I do think that Drew sold her on it pretty well. But I think that Austin coming back and being like, hey, I'm being forthright with you about what I found. Me and Drew have already told you about previous things that we found. We are with you. And if you side with us tonight, you've got the information to knock us down if you want. But don't do that. Let's all work together. And I think that really sold her.
Yes, that really worked out. It was also great. I mean, great on Drew and Austin to sort of be like, I guess we have to tell Emily about this one too. I also have to shout out Austin. I thought his lie about that it was either the sandwiches or the savvy challenge, and they just lost the savvy challenge, was actually very smart to tell the whole group. But now we have to see if him, Jay, Maya, and Kelly all agreed that that was the overall story, because we're about to head into a merge next week. So tribal, or we think, right? We never know with this new era.
Mergatory.
Mergatory.
We have tribal council. Nothing really big happens here. But what does happen that I think we should touch upon is that Kendra openly admits and is vulnerable about her feelings about being betrayed by people and how scary it is to have to put her trust in people when voting at tribal council, only to get blindsided with Brando getting voted out. So I think Kendra is going to be really happy to see her old Bello tribe mates when the merge happens, because you could see it on her face. I think this was a terrifying experience for Kendra.
Oh yeah.
I like you said, her face spoke more than anything she could have said. She was not expecting that to be the results of that tribal, and I am very curious if coming back, she is going to take a Sean approach, a Sifu approach, or her own special Kendra approach to how she's going to interact with her tribe after this blindside.
Absolutely. And we saw some, what are they called? Advantages be played tonight. We saw Austin sacrifice his vote in order to extend his idol, but he had that goodwill advantage and used that to get his vote back. So it was fun to sort of see that play out. Great use of both of those advantages, kind of had to have been done. And yeah, Phil.
Can I say, I think that tribal vote is gonna go down. I maybe I'm blowing it up. I think that tribal vote's gonna sort of be cemented. I think that's a really memorable one, very similar to Wendell going, you cannot rap. Stop rapping. Go home, Chris. There are certain voting confessionals that we just remember. They're cemented in our brains, in Survivor culture. I love him walking through it all. He goes, I don't have a vote tonight. However, this goodwill, I'm sacrificing my vote. However, this goodwill advantage allows me to vote. I'm voting. Yeah. I don't know why. Him stepping us through it was really, really cool to me, and I thought it was very memorable.
All right, all. Merge boot. Before we sign off, merge boot. Who do you think it's going to be? Or mergatory boot, however it's going to be now.
Ollie, you go first. I'm not ready.
I'm not. I'm gonna say I think it depends on who, because my take is you've got Emily and Caleb that are going to be in the middle. That's my take. I think the mergatory boot will be whichever kind of tribe they side with. I'm going to say it's either going to be Bruce or maybe Sifu. Maybe. I don't know. I feel like there's someone else, but I don't want to say them.
I'm going to put my thumb on the scale here. I also think it's Bruce. I think it's Bruce. And I was going to say I think it's Bruce or Couture, but I think it's Bruce.
I think it's Bruce.
based on what Caleb said this episode, how he was handling his reactions with Bruce on their camp, which was his strategy of, I'm just going to do what Bruce tells me to do. And I'm going to do that so much that Bruce sort of lowers his guard around me. So for my time to strike, I did say in our reaction video with Heidi that I do think Caleb is going to have a big say in Bruce leaving if or when that time comes. We'll see. So it might happen next week. We'll see if that's how the story plays out. But I'm curious to hear from all of our viewers as well. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Got Something For Ya. Go ahead and leave us a comment down below who you think the merge or mergatory boot is going to be. And as always, we will be here next Sunday to discuss the next episode. See you all then.